What's up, folks? It's Dan here from BeAGameCharacter.com with another edition of Q&A Tuesday. I apologize for the lack of video last week. Stuff has just been really crazy with the whole, plans to move my dojo and open a gym and like all this other stuff that's going on. Plus, I'm getting ready to leave my job, so lots of stuff happening, and it's just got a little overwhelming. So we're gonna jump right in with last week's questions this week, and we'll get started with John Smith, who says, my favorite work of fiction. That's right, was your favorite work of fiction was the question of the week. My favorite work of fiction would be Metro 2033. Now, what would be your dream gym if you had a limitless budget? How would the layout be? What equipment would be there? What decor would be up? Would it be like a powerlifting gym or boxing gym? I don't know, running nose all of a sudden. So basically, and I've thought about this already. Here's the idea. This is the ultimate dream. This is the final goal mode. Is I want to have a facility that's got effectively like three or four different rooms. Like I want one big room for parkour and ninja warrior type stuff. Also like multi-purpose, like have at least some of the floor have like movable stuff that we can like take out if we need like a big space to do things in. So that'd be like one big room and then a smaller room for martial arts stuff. Not like significantly smaller, but you don't need as much space because you're not running around as much with parkour and Ninja Warrior stuff. And then another area for lifting, and ideally that area, the that fitness training area, would be kind of its own self-contained thing, so I could have like a 24-hour like slide card access where you got somebody that's on duty for maybe 8 or 10 hours a day there. But then if somebody wants to come in and work out at 3 in the morning, as long as they have a membership card, they can swipe their card and get in. Obviously, for liability reasons, can't really have the access to the parkour ninja warrior area without somebody who's licensed around. But having like a 24-hour gym and just a whole bunch of like traditional strength training stuff in there, just lots of weight and lots of racks and stuff like that, and some cable machines and stuff too, and then maybe even a fourth area for cardio that would be attached to that with stationary bikes or treadmills or both, kind of a thing. So basically like a pretty good size building with like four different spaces in it, each designed for its own activity. So that's the dream gym. As far as decor and stuff like that, I would really like to go with kind of either a comic book, like superhero kind of aesthetic, or like a graffiti slash street type aesthetic. That would be really cool. What would be really cool with that, and this is an idea I've had for a while, is if I own a building, which is ideally what I would want to be doing in that situation, is I would like to have like an outside wall that be open for like local artists to come and paint on. Um, so I think that'd be a really cool thing to have, and just kind of have like a rotational, like your work will be up there for a while, and then we're gonna clear the canvas and let new artists come in, kind of a thing. So that's basically that's basically like what I'd like to go for, is like to have a multi-purpose facility where we could be running Ninja Warrior classes, martial arts classes, and strength training slash cardio training all at the same time, like simultaneously. There is a spot in my area that I really want to buy the building. It's right by where my dojo is, but it's like $700,000 for the building. So obviously it's not happening right now. In the future, maybe, but right now, not happening. But that's ideally what I would like to go for eventually. My idea is, again, I just want a business, a gym, a location where basically you're like, hey, I want to be Batman, and we're like, okay, we can help you with that. So that's the idea. Great question, John Smith. Thank you for asking, and I will see you next week. Next up, we have Your Name, who says, my favorite work of fiction would have to be I, Robot, mostly because it is probably the most accurate commentary on the future. Interesting. My question for you is, how do you go about teaching your significant other martial arts? I want to teach a few basic techniques, but without forcing or making it unpleasant to the point where they won't find martial arts interesting. Um, well, my significant other already knows martial arts. She is 3 years behind me in karate. Doesn't have much judo experience as I do. She's not ranked in judo, but she has done some judo. So it's honestly tough for me to weigh in on this. The main thing is you want to make it fun. You don't want to make it like unpleasant, obviously. And you know, I mean, I don't know how close you are with your significant other, but wrestling around is always a good time. So that's one option. I mean, you could just you want to make it like a good time. That's the main thing. Whenever I'm teaching anybody that's not coming to one of my classes, like if I'm just doing some martial arts stuff on the side with them, like which is something I do occasionally, it's like I just want to make it a good time. And the other thing is you want to teach the essentials. Like if I'm teaching someone karate, like they're coming to my class on a weekly basis and stuff, then I'm teaching them kata, I'm teaching them basics, I'm teaching them all the intricacies, I'm teaching them various things that, like the full art. If I'm teaching someone just how to defend themselves, for the most part, I skip a lot of the ceremonial stuff. Like I skip kata, I skip, the various basics and bowing, and I show how to throw a punch, I show some grappling essential fundamentals, and I show how to, keep your hands up and throw techniques while keeping your hands up. Because in an actual self-defense situation, your best bet is to just be able to keep your hands up and go nuts. So that is kind of my approach for it. My other question for you has to do with kicking. Bruce Lee had that quote where he fears the guy who practiced one kick 10,000 times. If I actually practiced each of my kicks 10,000 times, what results, if any, do you think I would see? So I wrote an article for the blog, a blog post back when I was covering Samurai Jack a couple of weeks ago about how to master anything. You go look it up. I'll try and link it in the description if I remember. But it's over on the blog. It's part of the Samurai Jack series. And basically, you could theoretically become very, very good at those kicks, or you could become very good at being mediocre at those kicks. You need to practice with the intent to improve. You need to be analyzing. If you just repeat the same kick 10,000 times without trying to improve it in any way, it's not really going to be that much better than when you started. You're just going to give yourself bad habits that are really, really, really ingrained. So what you want to actually do is you want to be kind of playing with and exploring the kick while you're doing it. So if you're working on, say, a straightforward kick, the kind of where you strike with the ball of your foot, most styles have some sort of like a straight snap kick where you lift your leg up, you kick out, you bring it back, and you put it down, and you're striking with the ball of the foot. Like that's something you see in a lot of martial arts styles. If you are practicing that kick, if you just practice it, like stomach high 10,000 times, you're going to get really, really good at throwing a stomach high 10,000 times. But you're not necessarily going to be super accurate with it. You're not going to necessarily have a larger range of motion on it. You're not necessarily going to be able to combo it into things better or attach it to other combos better. You need to work that kick, yes, but you need to work that kick at different heights. You need to work that kick on different targets, moving targets. You need to work that kick in live practice, like sparring and stuff like that. You need to work that kick attached to other techniques, like part of a combination of some sort. You should work that kick in creative ways, like while balancing on one foot, while on uneven ground, while, like eyes closed, slow motion. Like practicing 10,000 times is great, but practicing creatively throughout those 10,000 times is going to improve you dramatically more. So that's what I would say. You're going to see improvement no matter what, at least a little bit, even if just from muscle conditioning and muscle memory, but you want to make sure you're building the right muscle conditioning and muscle memory. Thanks, Dan. Have a good week. You have a good week as well. Your name. Thank you for stopping by. Next up, we have BenRex777, who says, "Hello, Dan. Favorite work of fiction is the Book of Lord of the Rings / Hobbit / Silmarillion. That's like, I would say 5 to 7 books, depending on how you're counting things. Like, I know there's different books in the Silmarillion. So, I mean, like, I'll allow it, but that's kind of cheating. You just named a whole bunch of works of fiction. You could have said, maybe you appreciate Tolkien's world, but that's not one work of fiction. But I'll allow it. I'll allow it. Now the question for you. If you could implement a fantasy element to our world, which one would it be? All right. Obviously not time travel, because that just screws everything up. Never, ever, 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 ever mess with time travel. Ever. Never. Fantasy element in our world, which one would it be? I would say it would be like psionics, like telekinesis / telepathy / empathy / all that good stuff. I don't know if that's too broad a header, but my initial thought would be like, okay, it'd be cool to like, throw fireballs or, what have you, predict the future, no time travel. But really, like the psionics header, like the idea that like you can train your brain like it's a muscle. You could do a lot of really cool stuff with that. Basically, like almost everything that you would want under the other headers, you can fit into psionics if you're like smart about how you do it. So that would be what I would say. I don't know if that counts as fantasy or sci-fi more, but that's what I would say. So like, if you're really, really, really good at telekinesis, you could like make yourself fly kind of a thing. Or, if you're really good at, telepathy or clairvoyance or what have you, like you can go ahead and find out basically anything you want to find out and stuff. And the idea that it's based on training and dedication, like how much work you put into it rather than just a magical gift that you were born with kind of a thing. So that's what I would go with. I like the Q&A workout format. As you are doing workouts anyway, you present fitness stuff more easily. Yeah, and I would do that today, but I honestly don't have time for a workout, so I figured it'd be better to get the video in, and I'll just work out tomorrow on my own. But in future, I would like to do more Q&A workouts. Comments don't always have to be long. Have a nice week, Benny. This is funny because Benny usually posts very long comments, which I appreciate. Benny, in case you're wondering, I do read all your comments, and I still don't know how I missed that question a couple of weeks ago. But I do read your full comments, and I also, I know I edit it down a bit to be on the video, but I love your long comments, Benny. I don't want you to think that I don't, but that's really funny. Comments don't always have to be long. You have a nice week as well, Benny. Thanks for stopping by. Next up, we've got Storyman09 who says, "Hey Dan, last week's answer was actually great. I'm kind of fried from finally finishing my finals for midterm, so a simple answer is good. I can implement it. As for my favorite work of fiction, I'm going to be real out there right now and say my favorite work of fiction is actually a fan fiction of an anime called Bleach. It's a serious fanfic, not weird. It's called A Protector's Pride, and it's like 384,000 words. What can I say? It resonates with me personally on a lot of levels, and it gets surprisingly deep at times. But yeah, out there. You know what? People knock fan fiction, and granted, there's a whole lot of really, really bad fan fiction out there. But guess what? I've written fan fiction. It's long gone off the internet. Like it's long, long, long gone. But I did write fan fiction back in the day. I wrote fan fiction in the Legend of Zelda universe. I wrote fan fiction in the Illusion of Gaia / Soul Blazer / Terra Enigma universe. I think I wrote some Dragon Ball Z in fan fiction too, but I'm not sure. Fan fiction is honestly not that bad a start for writing for some people. It's like when you're an artist and you're painting your own interpretations or drawing or doing your own interpretations of like other artists' work, which is something that some artists do. Fan fiction is very similar. You're getting to play around in an established universe. Oh, I think I did some DC Comics fan fiction too. You get to play around with an established universe where you don't have to work on developing characters from the ground up, but you can work on character development of previously existing characters. You can work on a lot of writing techniques while taking out some of the stuff that's really like intimidating for people that are starting out. So, a lot of people like to knock fan fiction, and granted, there's a whole lot of bad fan fiction out there, but I think it's honestly a really good thing for a lot of writers. And granted, you have some horror stories as well, but there is some good fan fiction out there. So I'm not knocking your fanfic love at all. That's totally fine. And I used to read fan fiction a lot back in the day, and some of it I look back on, I'm like, I look cringe, but some of it I look back on, I'm like, you know what? That was pretty good writing. There is some great, if you're familiar with the writing prompts subreddit, one of the things that they do is they do they'll do established universe writing prompts where they basically give you somebody submits a prompt that's all about, it's basically like a mini fan fiction. Like, here's your established universe, here's the scenario, write how this would happen. And there's some really cool stuff. Like I read this really great established universe fan fiction little short of Iroh from Avatar meeting Darth Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker, and attempting to convince him to turn from the dark side. And there were some great submissions there. Like the top submission was awesome. Like as I was reading it, I was hearing Iroh and Vader's voices in my head as I was reading them, and it totally fit the characters. I'm like, this is really good. Like, fan fiction does not have to be bad. So that's my fan fiction rant. Anyway, my question for you this week is also kind of out there, but it has been well documented that our brains rewire themselves all the time and even develop further and become more efficient at what we do a lot of. So to your best guess, what would your brain look like? I just want to clarify, your brain, not your mind. Already asked the mind question. God, I honestly would not claim to know enough about brain biology and structure to be able to make an educated guess on this. I'm sorry. Uh, you know, I would say probably a more active, I know the whole right brain left brain thing is a fallacy, but probably more active creative slash what have you kind of creative non-logical um spatial relationships versus algebraic side. Like, I definitely think a lot better in terms of, say, geometry than I do abstract math concepts, or like, creative outlet rather than logical, non, creative based thought. Which is not to say that I can't be logical when I want to. I'm very, very good, at least in my opinion, at shutting off my emotions when I need to, but I don't like to do it. I am very much an emotionally, like, kind of like, boom, in your face, this is how I feel kind of person. So probably more creative slash much more active sectors of my brain as far as creative stuff than the mathematical logical section. That's as best as I can give you. Did I say mathematical logical or mathematical logic? Whatever. Anyway, so I hope that gives you a little something. I honestly don't know enough about brain structure and biology to be able to give you a better answer than that. And I wish I could, but I'm sorry. So may you be well. I wish you the best of luck and skill this week. Yourself as well, Storyman. Thank you for stopping by. As always, all of y'all, I appreciate your patience. I know sometimes these are a little spotty and have been for the past couple of months. I am gearing up, like I said, to be leaving my job in the next month or so, and then, boy, are we gonna be busy. So stay tuned. I've got some really exciting news coming down the pike for that, but I'm not ready to share it just yet. Once again, I really appreciate y'all sticking with me. Oh, and question, my own personal fictional work would be, my favorite fictional work would probably be, oh, I should have thought about this before I came on air. I'm gonna go with, I think, The Hobbit. I think I'm gonna go with The Hobbit because the cool thing about The Hobbit is that, unlike Lord of the Rings or Silmarillion, it doesn't go like super hard into details necessarily. Like, you're thrown into a world, and Tolkien's big skill was world building. You're thrown into a world where there's a whole bunch of stuff that is existing outside of your story, and he's really great at hinting at that and the lore of that without going into full detail of it. And it just makes the world seem so much bigger than most fantasy works that you read. Not that other fantasy works aren't great, but so much bigger than most fantasy works. You feel like you're just getting this little tiny window into this huge world. And I think that's part of the reason why Tolkien's work has lasted for so long, besides the fact that it kind of established most of the fantasy tropes that we know of, but it really built the world and then showed you just a little bit of it. Like, Tolkien had this massive reality that he created, and then he was really good at just showing you snapshots of different areas of that. And it's why people have a harder time getting the Silmarillion, I think, because Silmarillion is a lot less of a snapshot and more of like a larger picture of the world. It's a lot more like a religious text than it is like a story text, because it's kind of giving you the full background and the full, from the ground up story versus, say, The Hobbit. So I would say that would probably be my favorite work of fiction, followed very, very closely by Dune and The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I think Dune comes slightly above The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, but Way of Kings is also very, very good. It's also like 800 freaking pages long. So much meatier read than the others. So that would be my best bet would be The Hobbit, followed by Dune, and then Way of Kings. So, question for you for next week. What is your favorite season and why? Let me know in the comments below. And a real simple fun one for you this week. And I'm just curious about this because I have my own thoughts on it, and I would like to hear what your thoughts are as well. So, what's your favorite season and why? And ask me a question or a couple, and I will answer them for you. So, thank you for watching. As always, remember, live boldly, change the world, and continue to be awesome. Bye bye.